Mabagal at tatamad-tamad ang ating puwersa. Kulang at walang sapat na hakbang ang Pilipinas para labanan ang China. Pagbabatikos yan ni Representative France Castro sa National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea. Sobrang kadismaya-dismaya raw ang aksyon ng AFP sa West Philippine Sea at sinisisi ni France Castro ang Philippine Coast Guard dahil dito. Dahil hindi daw nito ginagawa ng maayos ang kanilang tungkulin sa ating karagatan.
135 noong November 5 and 6, and then you reacted December 2. Don't you think yung ating EEZ, kasi ito po, Admiral, Vice Admiral, ano na natin ito eh, pag-aari na natin ito eh, whether magkaroon ng Chinese vessel doon o hindi. So paano natin, sana maging proactive tayo, hindi tayo reactive. Diba? So tapos, parang, mag-1 month bago tayo nag-react. So, ang ginagawa lang natin, tinitignan lang natin sila. So, ganun lang ba yung ginagawa? Ang dami na nilang magagawa with that span of days. Baka naglagay na sila ng kung ano-ano doon sa exclusive economic zone na hindi natin alam. So, bakit ganun po tayo kabagal doon sa reaction research?
Pero tama bang batikusin ng Philippine Coast Guard at Philippine Navy? Yan ang kinagalit na Commodore J. Tariela. Nagkainitan tuloy sa pagdinig sa Kamara. Wala kasi talaga sa ayos ang pambabatikos ni Castro dahil ginagawa naman ng ating hukbo ang kanilang makakaya kahit buhay pa ang kapalit nito. Sadyang kulang lang talaga ang sasakyang puwersang kayang magpalaya sa mga Chinese maritime militia.
Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine Coast Guard understand our patriotic duty in maintaining our presence in the West Philippine Sea. With your first question as to whether the armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine Coast Guard are not proactive in responding to the presence of the Chinese maritime militia, I would like to emphasize that as what Admiral Carlos mentioned, the armed forces of the Philippines, together with the Philippine Air Force, Philippine Navy, and the Philippine Coast Guard, when we learned that the Chinese maritime militia started swarming in Julian Felipe, we have constantly sent our limited assets, whether it's the Philippine Navy or the Philippine Coast Guard. That's why we were able to document their increasing presence from November until last Saturday of December 2. Now, the second question, whether...
May cut to them, Commodore Ariel. Sabi nyo, November 5 to 6, pero nag-react lang kayo ng PCG ng December 3. So, ang daming araw noon, di ba? Nanamonitor nila eh, November 5 and 6 eh. So, di ba sabi niyo po, sabi hanggang sa umaba na siya. So, 135. So, I don't believe na talagang ginagawa niyo yung katungkulan o sinasabi niyo po na enough yung ginagawa niyo para mapigil natin ito. So, I beg to disagree doon sinasabi nito. Kasi, kaya nga po tinatanong ko, no? Kailan nyo na-monitor? November 5 and 6. Tapos, bumaba siya, 16, naging 16, naging 25. December 2 lang kayo po nag-react.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair. Mag-respond lang po ako sa tanong niyo, ma'am, no? Ang Philippine Coast Guard po, November 13, nagpunta doon, and also December 2. Ganito po yan, ma'am. Ang deployment po ng Philippine Coast Guard at ng Armed Forces of the Philippines on a rotational basis. Kung nag-deploy na po si Westcom ng Philippine Navy on November 5 and 6, and then the Philippine Coast Guard will do their patrol on the next following week. And then eventually the Philippine Air Force as well will be sending their aircraft. Hindi lang po Philippine Coast Guard. Again, with the very limited assets that we have, just to emphasize, we only have 3 vessels in Palawan. And if you can just imagine how fast West Philippine Sea is, we cannot expect that the Philippine Coast Guard will be there 24/7 in Julian Felipe to watch over the swarming of the Chinese maritime militia. And then the second question, ma'am, just to respond to your question, are we effective in doing what we're doing right now? I think so. With the transparency initiative that we have launched since February, wherein we exposed the swarming of Chinese maritime militia, we can notice how they responded. The swarming of in Sabina show before, in last April, when we publicized it, a few days after they left. When they did the swarming in Iraq, we also publicized it, they also left. Now here in Julian Felipe, are we going to celebrate this already with the 135 down to 28? I think so. And then in the next coming days, we're still going to expect that they're going to withdraw.
Okay, Mr. Chair, why not? Sinasabi natin, hindi pa tayo nagsa-celebrate dito. Kahit na isang vessel na nakalagay na ano yung China doon, ano yun, violation dun sa ating soberanya. Hindi tayo natutuwa doon, Mr. Chair, kay Commodore doon sa sinasabi niya. Hindi tayo nagsa-celebrate doon sa from 135, naging 25. Ay, hindi ako satisfied doon na 35. Mr. Chair, ginawa niyo nag-down sila sa 100 sa 25 dahil December 2 lang kayo nag-react. Well, I appreciate, no, with the limited resources of the PCG and even siguro yung AFP natin, kayo ngayon naghihingi kayo dito ng more, tingin ko more funding capacity, but ano naman yon, pwede naman yon, at tama naman yon. Kaya lang po, Mr. Chair, kung sinasabi mo kanina, Mr. Chair, sabi ni Commodore, kailangan na, hindi nila pwedeng mabantayan yan 24 hours or araw-araw. Why not? Diba? So ano kaya tinatagan natin, Mr. Chair, dito? Ano pa ba yung pwede natin gawin? Para mabantayan natin man lang yung ECC natin. Hindi na yung West Philippine Sea man lang. Ito, yung ECC natin, yun lang po, Mr. Chair, kasi talagang worry talaga ako na tayo ay binubuli ng China na ganito yung capacity natin. Nakakahiya, di ba?
Ipinagtanggol naman ng isang mambabatas ang Armed Forces of the Philippines dahil hindi nila kasalanan kung bakit nabubuli at nangihimasok ang mga Chinese sa ating teritoryo. Sobra at napakalaki raw ng West Philippine Sea. Talagang kahit napakarami pa ng ating barko, ay hindi talaga nito mababantayan oras-oras, minu-minuto ang ating karagatan. Kaya wag anya sisihin ang ating puwersa.
In dealing with the various incidents at the West Philippine Sea, a ship captain, a Navy lieutenant commander cannot just trigger a war with a very powerful adversary, no? So I agree with your observation that we should have a calibrated response. But let me state this, that I believe that the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard are doing their very best in securing our territorial waters and exclusive economic zone to the limits of the resources available to them. We cannot fault the Navy and the Coast Guard if there are continuing harassments or incursions in our territorial waters or exclusive economic zone. They are doing their very best. It is just that our resources are very limited. And of course, that is not that matter cannot be addressed by the Navy and Coast Guard at their level. That is a matter that should be addressed by the political leadership of this country. So I refer to the provision of more funding for the Navy and the Coast Guard. So that is a matter for the executive and the legislative to address. But at their level, I believe that the Navy and the Coast Guard are doing their patriotic duty of securing our sovereignty and territorial integrity. So I would like to express my gratitude to our Navy and Coast Guard for their patriotic duty at the West Philippine Sea. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Kayo, nadidismaya ba kayo sa ating hukbo? Tsaka ba dapat ba talagang sisihin sila tungkol dito? Ano sa inyong palagay? I-komento sa baba ang inyong saloobin.